You're listening to This Week in E-Commerce, the Ecom Nation podcast. Dive into the top online retail headlines with your hosts, Paul Waddy and Mal Chia. Let's load up the cart. This Week in E-Commerce, episode 24. I am Mal Chia, and with me is Paul Waddy. Paul, how are you?
Greetings. Hello, Mal. Hello, everybody. How's your week been, Mal?
This week's been pretty good. It's back to school week. So in my son's case, Oscar's case, it's his introduction to school week. So this is his first week of school. So it's been there's been tears, primarily from his mum, maybe a little bit from me, but primarily from his mum. It's been a fun week, seeing how he's been settling into school and things like that. Although he's getting a little bit tired after kindy, where you do bugger all and you only go there twice a week. Now he's had 4 days in a row of 8:30 to 3 p.m. school. So he's a little bit knackered now and getting a little bit, fractious.
Little Oscar. Yeah, well, that'll be me next week with Azalea, and I think probably quite a few people listening as well will be in the same boat. And hopefully, Mal, people will be in the same boat as my wife, who's like, well, I'll have a bit more time on my hands with one less kid in the house. Should I start an online business?
She's going to do it?
We'll see.
Watch this space. Watch this space.
I won't hold my breath.
Yeah. Well, and I said to her the other day, it's like, well, you've got the right person to teach you all about that. Yeah, I was talking about myself naturally. So. Very good, very good. Well, we are into February now. It's hard to believe that that January has flown by already, and we are now into the second week of the month. And things are really starting to heat up around the place. Not just because the AFL season's about to start, which I'm very excited about, but the news just keeps on coming. I don't even know where to start this week with all the headlines.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening. Yeah, which is pretty exciting. A few additions this week, today, which we might talk about next week. But where do you want to start?
Well, I think let's start with the good news, and we can finish with bad news and finish with the good news. So okay. I think the Godfrey's, which honestly I haven't thought about, put 2 seconds thought into Godfrey's for many, many, many years. Probably since I bought my first vacuum cleaner, or when I last walked into Westfield. But they collapsed into administration. And yeah, I saw that, and I had a tinge of nostalgia about a brand which has been around for so long, a real, again, heritage retailer in Australia going into administration. And, I was sad, but at the same time, I was like, oh, well, I'm not surprised either.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, yes, I don't know anything about their numbers, but I'm not surprised either. It's a bit sad, isn't it? 93-year-old brand, 54 store closures, so a big retail footprint there, which is obviously so capital intensive. Just having to pay that rent, pay the wages. There's no credit terms on wages. There's no credit terms on rent. So I would say big money going out each week. And it's interesting. It says that it was felled by a pullback in consumer spending, which is something, we've been warning of quite a lot lately. And this is what we're saying, right? Even businesses with, more than 50 stores are not exempt. 93-year-old businesses are closing down due to a pullback in consumer spending. And probably fair to say, maybe like a slight tech change in the way people, I don't know about you, but have you got a fancy vacuum cleaner at home? I've got a couple.
I do. I've got a robot vacuum. I've got a Robo-Rock vacuum.
Yeah, there you go. So I've got a couple of Dysons and this thing that does beeping and talks at me and does wet mopping plus vacuuming, and all I know is it costs $1,000. And you feel like people want sexy vacuum cleaners now. And I don't know if Godfrey's do that.
But it's like, what value do they offer? Outside of the fact that, yes, it's a vacuum and you can get it from there and it's convenient, but are they necessarily cheaper than everyone else? Do they offer better service? Do they offer a better range of products? And that's the thing where, they are in a space where, again, you're selling someone else's product and you haven't really differentiated from why they should buy from you. if I recall, when I bought my vacuum cleaner, this is a long, long time ago, I bought a Miele from them. I bought it from Godfrey's because they were a trusted brand in vacuums. So they were the people you bought vacuums from. But now you can get vacuums from Amazon. You've got your JB Hi-Fi, not JB Hi-Fi, but you've got like the Harvey Normans of the world. You've got some, Good Guys. There's so many brands you can just buy a vacuum cleaner from now, who are offering even better deals and have a better range than Godfrey's. And I just don't think that they've innovated. Like, yes, they may have made some investments into online retail, but I don't think they've made enough investments into being an innovative retailer.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. That's Brian Walker, who comments on this article, says the same thing. It's a lack of innovation. It's interesting. It attributes market share being chipped away by JB Hi-Fi, Good Guys, Harvey Norman, and online. And it also doesn't stock Dyson, and Dyson has taken a fair chunk of the market. But you're 100% right. Like, when I think of a Dyson, like, you pretty much know that they're super agile, they vacuum super strong, and they have a cool little clip that tucks away nicely. When I think of Godfrey's, I don't really know what they stand for. And that's not a slight on them, because they lasted 93 years and obviously did a lot right. But yeah, did they kind of... I remember that. I even reckon I know that vacuum cleaner you're talking about, the Miele or whatever. But you used to go into my grandmother, and they'd demonstrate, the salesperson would demonstrate how to use it. It was a whole thing. I think people just buy them online now. That used to be the selling technique. I even remember a door-to-door salesperson selling us a vacuum cleaner at my grandmother's. Yeah. So it's like, I reckon, poor old Godfrey's been swallowed up by not moving with the times, potentially.
Look, the lesson here is just you got to innovate. You cannot rest on your laurels. And I think it's something which the former chief retail officer at Nike said, where undifferentiated retail isn't going to survive. So you need to be remarkable nowadays, particularly if you're going to have a store, which is going to be driving most of your foot traffic, most of your revenue. You got to actually have an experience there, which is going to want to bring people in.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Mal. And just checking out their website, and lo and behold, they're on sale. So if you want a sale on vacuum cleaners, go in and support them a little bit.
Yeah, I actually spoke to someone the other day who bought a vacuum cleaner from Godfrey's on Sunday, before the news broke that they went into administration, who bought it, and they gave him a 5-year service, 5 years free service. With the vacuum, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, you know what, Mal? At least they gave them the free one, because there's stories of people, about to go into administration, upselling warranties and so on. So at least it was free. But I bet he doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Look, he got his vacuum cleaner. Let's just hope it doesn't break down in the next 5 years.
We can always buy.
All right. Now, another story was from the ABS, who this week released some retail numbers for December, where no surprise that they announced that retail turnover fell 2.7% in December, seasonally adjusted. So that followed an increase in November, where November increased 1.6% after a slight fall in October, which they've said just again shows the change in consumer spending, that more people are shifting their spending from December to November, as we've been saying for quite a while. They're starting to bring more of those sales forward, but also seeing a sharper fall in December due to less discretionary spending, due to lower consumer confidence. So with all these changes going on, do you think December has much of a chance to reclaim its spot as being the preeminent retail month of the year?
No chance. That's a massive drop. I remember there was obviously a few months where retail fell last year, June, I think, and as it says, October was 0.2%, and I think June or July was less than 1% or about 1%. So 2.7 is actually huge. And it's interesting. Like, we probably saw heaps of big numbers. We saw some $4 million days and stuff like that, or maybe even a $6 million day on cyber sales. Like, that's ridiculous. Heaps of brands out there did 5 million for the month, 10 million for the month. Some brands are doing 80% of their revenue for the year in November now, which is super crazy and stressful. And I just don't want to know about that. So no, I think it's just we in Australia also go super hard on cyber discounting, probably too hard. We've spoken about that so much, Mal, the damage that, gross margins. And we talked last week about how smart businesses like Kogan and Origin have really worked hard on that and really had killer results. So I think I don't expect many brands to learn their lessons on margin, and smart ones will, but plenty won't. So heaps will discount again in November. And it just shows what you just said, Mal. Yeah, it's great to have big cash in November, but you do pay for it in December to some extent. So it's important to know, when your November's done, what have you got for December? What do you got for January? I'm pretty sure, Mal, when we see the numbers for Jan, I feel like they're going to be a drop as well, right? I think Jan's been pretty hard.
Absolutely. I can't imagine them being anything other than a drop.
Yeah. So that's just consumer spending down. And I guess discounting in November, everyone was, we spoke about Aldi. Everyone is more price conscious, therefore does their shopping in November and sits back a little bit in December and Jan. So, yeah, I think Jan will be similar. I don't see December really ever getting anywhere near November while Cyber. Even if they turn Cyber Week off and it was disappeared off the calendar now, people will still discount in November now. It's part of the culture.
Yeah. Well, I think it is, and particularly when sales are starting earlier and earlier and earlier. Yeah, and now you've got big brands starting their sales in October or even the start of November, which is just crazy. I remember Gymshark going back about 5 years ago. Their Black Friday sale was, I think, 4 or 5 days. It was 4 or 5 days. It went absolutely bananas, and then it was off. That was it. I think they were on sale for the majority of November, and that's pretty reflective of a lot of brands who now rely so heavily on that because customers are just waiting. They're just waiting for those sales, particularly last year when there were so many promos, so many sales that you just had to wait a couple of weeks and you were pretty certain that you were going to be able to get that product on discount. And again, we talk about training the customer to only buy and sell. We are 100% seeing that now, right now, because people are just yep, we brought forward all our spending. January spending, February spending. So retailers are going to be then going, oh, our revenue's down. What do we need to do? Unfortunately, a lot of them are just going to default to, right, we're going to have to do another sale to make up for the lost revenue, which then may create a temporary spike, but then just delays the problem. Again, it's going to kick the can further down the road where someday, somehow, someone's got to pay the piper.
Yeah, that's it. And kicking the can down the road is exactly it. And people just keep doing that, borrow money, keep alive, hold on till November, hold on till November, hold on till November. And then what happens, Mal, is you go into administration.
Yes. Yeah. And look, we saw a bit of that last year. I think that's not over yet. I was speaking to someone earlier who feels that 2024 is going to be the proper year of reckoning. I think I said that 2023 was going to be the bloodletting. He feels that it's going to be 2024 because people were still able to limp through 23. But 24, there's now no hiding because there's no capital. There's no money out there.
There's no money out there even to borrow. That's right. It's not as easy to just borrow quickly on some of these platforms and so on. Banks are tightening up. So I reckon that could be the call, which is a shame. But I mean, we're only in Feb and there goes Godfrey's and there's been a couple others in trouble. So look, not all doom and gloom. Heaps doing really, really well, but it's just back to what we always say, Cyber Week's nice and use it to clear old inventory, but e-commerce is 99% more than that. It's just one month of the year, really.
And that kind of segues into, I'm going to jump around a little bit, another topic which actually came up a couple of weeks ago, but we've kind of held off to now, where Lura Hippo, which is a venture capital firm, which most famously invested in a lot of consumer brands such as Allbirds and Warby Parker and made a lot of money because they invested early, got out when they IPO'd, have now actually moved out of consumer investing altogether, in the same way that Andreessen VC firm have also pulled out of consumer, which kind of shows that there's lower confidence now in investing in consumer brands. And it's very hard to see any of those. When you look at those brands I talked about before, like Allbirds, Warby Parker, Dollar Shave Club, who IPO'd or got massive amounts of investment when they started, but then had valuations just come crashing back down to earth in a very short period of time. Yeah, it just goes back to the fact that, consumer is actually getting harder and harder. There's less money out there to do it. And I think people are kind of realizing that from what Lura Hippo is saying, that they've realized that consumer is much harder than people realize.
Yeah, much harder and more competition now each year as well as new players still come in. We've still got Temu coming into Australia and via China and so on. So, yeah, I think it's Yeah, well, I mean, we've been saying this for a while. Like, business is hard, and you don't become rich overnight, and you need to have a plan and a strategy, not just turn on your store because you can and then start running Facebook ads. It just doesn't work like that. But unfortunately, not everyone shares I guess, the warnings that come along with that. And I think we virtually discussed this morning on a platform that on Facebook that your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth attempt at business is gradually better and better and better and better and better. Business is hard. Consumer spending and consumer confidence is low. Retail is down. All of that comes back to the same point. Like, can you make lots of money? Of course you can. But what are you bringing to the table? Like, what's your brand about? What's your value proposition? Like, what's cool? What's cool about what you're doing? The answer is like not much. Then you're in for a really, really tough go. And there's still room for really cool, innovative brands. We see that in our agency all the time. Plenty of brands doing really well now. It's just like, I guess what's different is the ones that are doing really well always tend to be doing something kind of cool. Like you go, oh, that's cool. That's different. That's a unique idea. And it's never really the cookie cutter businesses that seem to be killing it these days. It's someone that's uncovered a little special sauce.
Yeah, it's all about having that differentiated value from your competitors, or doing something which is so unique in the market that no one else is. But by the by, that's actually getting pretty hard to do. So again, it goes back to one thing we always talk about, which is moats. You got to build that moat, whatever it is you're doing. And in a lot of cases, that moat is going to be your brand, or it could be some sort of IP in your business. So whether it's something like, some patented fabric, which you have,
yes,
potentially in apparel, or some sort of manufacturing technique or some certain feature. Like, for instance, Theragun, which is a brand I think we talked about first about a year or so ago. Yeah. What's special about Theragun versus their competitors is that their technology actually can penetrate your skin, your flesh or whatever, actually further than the competitors. Like, that's their patent. They actually have a patent on how deep they can penetrate your skin. So they can legitimately go out there and say no other gun works as well as we do, because we own the patent on it. We own the patent on the technology which allows that to happen. So they've got a moat, and a lot of brands don't have that moat. So it's good to think about what that can be. What is that differentiated value which you are going to be bringing to the table?
Yeah. Back to Elon Musk, 100% of his marketing dollars go into R&D. It's like, come up with a better product and it'll probably do better when you bring it to market.
Well, having said that, though, Tesla are not doing too well right now. Like, they're, they aren't doing too well.
Check my shares.
Yeah, look, he's not poor by any stretch of imagination. So, Elon is still...
He's not the richest now either.
Oh, so he's lost it again to Arnaud, the LVMH guy?
He did, which further illustrates the point, though, right? The killer brands and consumer products can still do well if they stand out. But that was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm not about to send him a care package, Elon. He's going to be fine. But yeah, you're right. And he's been knocked off that top position again.
I think a lot of the reason, from what I understand anyway, with why Tesla lost that, why Tesla shares are down so much, is because they've had to do so much cost cutting. I think the price of Tesla is up down about 20 or so % in the US. That's on the Model 3 and the Model the Model Y, I believe. The Model X. So they've actually had to cut the price on a lot of the cars, and that is to keep up with the competition, because now there's so much other competition. So a lot of Tesla owners are crying that that the value of their asset, their car, has also fallen as well. If you bought a car for $80,000 last year, that same car is now worth $65,000 brand new. So you've lost a hell of a lot of value already. So and also their inability, ironically enough, not to actually innovate. Whereas you've got other brands like Cadillac, for instance, they've got the Lyric, which looks amazing, and it's about to launch in Australia. That looks phenomenal. Kia are doing a great job. Yeah. So many other of the legacy car makers coming out with really great electric vehicles now. And Tesla suddenly start looking that maybe they're not as innovative anymore, particularly because they still don't have low-cost entry-level model, whereas a lot of these other brands like BYD, for instance, they do have a low-cost entry-level model. In addition to like the bigger, more premium ones, is something which they've left the opportunity there, and I think their share price is suffering. So again, like, no moat is it's you're never going to be impenetrable, but you always need to make sure that you are innovating, on that. You can't rest on your laurels.
Yeah, well, that's back to the Godfrey's example from the start, right? 93 years old business and still gone through potential lack of innovation. And you're 100% right. Like, no matter how good you're going, there's always somebody knocking on your door ready to do what you do or copy you or try and do it cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's the pressure we're under.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what keeps us young as well. Just let's keep on. And why I love retail anyway, because it is a constant challenge. It's not a case of like you can rest in your laurels, because you do need to always innovate. You always need to look at what the competition is doing, how you can innovate, how you can do better, and so that you can keep growing as well.
Yeah, well, that's why we love e-commerce as well. Every year that goes by, we're just in uncharted waters, and we're all learning as we go. And it's like we say, when everyone's zigging, you zag. Just find your own way to do things.
Yeah, and again, a great segue into our final story, and this is the positive one, which we're going to talk about, which is the Reject Shop. A brand which, again, I don't think we've ever talked about on here. Matter of fact, we don't really tend to talk about brands like the Reject Shop, Cheapest Chips, Best and Less, we may have mentioned a few times. But I saw a story on Apple News saying that the Reject Shop is now considered a really cool homewares destination, right up there with Kmart. And I remember how a few years ago, Kmart really kind of relaunched themselves with like really affordable, kind of cool looking homewares. Like all the Anko stuff, it's all decent quality and all has that Scandi type look to it. And suddenly it became ubiquitous everywhere. It looks like the Reject Shop are doing the same thing, that they are now really stepping up their kitchen and home decoration game. And there's a lot of TikTok. You go on TikTok and you look up the Reject Shop. There are people going like showing off their Reject Shop purchases with like, can you believe that this is from the Reject Shop? And people are going wild for it.
Yeah, I think I love it. The cottage collection or whatever they're calling it of homewares. It reminds me of Aldi a little bit. I think Aldi are the greatest buyers on the planet when they release an occasion. And I love that we've talked about niches and even niching down when you're buying as well. I love that they went for homewares but zeroed in on cottage collection or whatever it is. Like, so let's own that space first. I think it's like, I can't help but think, they've done such a good job from a pretty daggy brand that was commercially successful. But it's so funny, like this. It's kind of like when hipsters came in, Mal. It's like, it's so uncool that it's cool. And it's like, when did this happen? Like, how did this? And I think it's just that, like, that generation on TikTok that have like, I've just discovered this and I'm going to TikTok about it. Like, I think they've hit the jackpot there, and so clever, like, and just a great example of what we all need to learn from as well, which is, I'm sure there's some strategy around. Like, I don't think they accidentally went viral on TikTok.
I doubt it.
I'm sure they're doing really, really well strategically there, but it's a good example. Like, even for these brands who don't typically think of TikTok as their channel, that is the channel that's growing. Like, wasn't too long ago when we were like, oh, Instagram, should we do something on Instagram? And I feel that's TikTok now. Like, oh, we kind of know we've got to do stuff on TikTok. Not really sure how yet. And this just proves, doesn't matter who your audience is, you can find ways to grow your audience through new channels, something we also speak about as well, finding new channels, and super clever, super like kooky, like just going viral on TikTok and the audience that's discovered it, but just really clever. And I'm kind of loving that. I think it's such a great example of a really traditional Aussie retailer who has innovated and used technology to its advantage. And the stuff looks really cool. Well, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, look, I think they've managed to really tap into a great macro trend, which I think we talked about. It's about the importance of value, right? Where they've looked at it and gone like, well, we still want to own that low price value of the market, but there's also a lot of players out there, and we're seen as being, like you said, this very daggy brand. Like, honestly, anytime I go into a Reject Shop, it just smells like laundry detergent. I get hit with this overwhelming smell of laundry detergent. So I generally do not like going in there. But now they're repositioning themselves as being like, yeah, hey, we got a hell of a lot of value. Yes, we've got value, but we also provide value because we've also got this really cool, unique furniture as well, homewares. So I think they've really hit the nail on the head about how do you, like you said, become relevant in this day and age to move away from changing that perception from being this daggy brand to being a brand which actually has some cool products, in addition to all the other bargain stuff as well. In the same way that Kmart is now, people aren't ashamed to buy from Kmart. Matter of fact, I think people are kind of proud to buy from Kmart nowadays. And because we are looking for that, we are looking for value, and those little life hacks where it's like, hey, check out where I got this from. People love that. So I think it's something which is very on trend, for them. They've managed to tap into something.
Yeah. You see TikTok, like just search it on the Reject Shop on TikTok. It's everywhere. Like it's the thing. It is literally the definition of they've found a way to trend and people are just jumping on it. So, fruity ceramics. Can't believe I found them in Reject Shop. Yeah, very cool. Love it. Love bit of inspo for all the brands listening that, we can find clever ways. And it's all like low budget shot stuff. Like we can find ways to use TikTok to our advantage.
But like you said, it all starts with strategy. I don't think this happened by accident. I think this was a very deliberate decision to go, okay, we need to change the perception of the brand. We need to change from being this daggy brand which smells like laundry detergent to something which, young kids who are maybe don't have as much disposable income as they'd like, be able to come in and just find really cool stuff.
Yep. Totally agree. I'm going to get lost on it. There's heaps of people. Reject Shop, and it's like the micro influencers, Mal. It's like it's not this like one person, like heaps and heaps of people, 5,000 likes and so on. It's like a really far reach, which is probably quite economical. But love it. Love what they've done.
Well, I'm expecting that next time I am in Casa Waddy that there will be lots of Reject Shop items there.
Yeah, I'm at my mother-in-law's today. I'm probably here somewhere. She's probably already checked it out.
Yeah, fantastic.
Fruity ceramics is right up her alley, Mal.
Well, Mother's Day is coming up in a couple of months, so better stock up.
True.
All right, Paul. That's all we got time for this week. Anything which you're keeping an eye out for?
No, a few acquisitions on the cards, and I'm going to try for next week and dig up everyone always asks about valuation, the Ecom valuations. There was a couple that I spoke about last week. I couldn't remember who they were. I think the multiples were around 5 times. So I want to try and dig those up for next week. What about you, Mel?
Not really. Just this week, just relaxing with the family, I think. But in terms of things I'm keeping out for, there is going to be ETAL in a couple of weeks' time, so I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing a couple of sessions.
If people want to go?
Yeah, that's on the 14th and 15th of February. So that's going to be in Sydney at the Sheraton on the Park. So that's a great event. Always very, very well run. Going to be a great group of retailers there and vendors as well. So looking forward to catching up with a few people there. And then, of course, later in the year as well, we're going to have Retail Fest amongst many other things. So a very exciting year as we kick off into the second month of the year.
Here we go. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Paul. See you next week.
See you guys.